Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Hope everybody had a nice warm week before it got cold on you. Weather's kind of 71 day and 20 something the next. But that's the thing about Texas. They say you don't like the weather, just wait 10 minutes and it'll change. Unless it's summertime. It's just hot. But truth be known, I like the cold weather. I had a little interesting deal happen last Sunday when I went to, because I preach on fifth Sundays over in Crowell Nursing Home. And as you know, I've been passing out these little Jesuses, you know. And so I passed them out to nursing home. Well, let's just say that might not have been the wisest thing to do. Because when I was in the dining room where I do the sermon and stuff, a nurse came up there to me and told me to quit passing these out because they thought they were candy and they were shoving them in their mouths. And she said, I've already pulled 2 of them out of the patient's mouth, so don't be giving any more of these things away. So, not every idea is a good idea. I always told my kids that. I got to follow suit with that. So I started just passing out the little cards that we yes. So, these are an age a warning that you might need to see about check into it. Okay. I saw a deal, which sometimes people post stuff on Facebook, and this one I saw, and it really made a lot of sense. And it says right here, it says, folks may not be serious about teaching their kids about Jesus, but the devil is serious about destroying them. It's not a game. And that's what a lot of us do, you know, we think, well, when it comes their time, they'll find Jesus. They'll find Jesus. And what we got to realize is all this time, there is an actual real devil in their ear talking to them all the time. And it's like I tell people, you know, that don't believe in the Bible, I tell them that they don't believe in God or whatever. So you don't believe in God, how about you believe in the devil? And if they say, no, I'm like, well, then just look in the mirror. You look in the mirror for more than 5 minutes, and your mind will start telling you all kinds of negative things of what it's seeing inside of that mirror. And that is the devil inside of your ear trying to make you hate yourself. Because the devil does not want you to win. That's what I'm trying to tell people, a lot of people, is the devil is a defeated foe. And the only thing he can do is try to drag down as many of God's people as he can. And he will do that by all means. He has nothing to lose. He has nothing to lose but all to gain. And when somebody, that's what they say about somebody being desperate. When somebody is desperate, they're very dangerous because they have nothing to lose. And so just be forewarned that anytime you get an opportunity to squeeze Jesus into somebody's life or in a conversation, do it. Don't hesitate. And now, talking about this is a guy right here that he probably wished he would talk more about his kids about. I'm reading in 2 Samuel again, chapter 19. And this is where King David, a man of God's own heart, has just heard about his son being killed. In 18 and 19, you know, that's the thing about, how they say it, Greek, Samuel, I think that's how they say it. But these books were written an entire book. So there was no 17, 18, 19 when these books were written. It was all one big book. And I think 1943, 1843, something like this, when they broke it up into chapters, so that way make it where people like me would be long-winded and read too long. And anyway, 18 and 19 should go really, really well together, because this is talking about the death of King David's son, Absalom. And David, as I say, he's been a man of God's own heart at times, and at times he hasn't. And that's what I say I love about the Bible, is it shows us the good and the bad about people. And all the people in the Bible live these perfect lives and stuff that will make us, when we realize that we couldn't live up to God's standards because we failed so much. We try our best to say, you know what, 2025, I'm gonna set this goal, set that goal, and you know, I didn't know it, but there is actually a day that's designated as the most common day that people break their New Year's resolution. Did y'all know that? It's the second Friday after New Year's that generally when people break their resolution, the most people, some kind of survey, I don't know where I heard this, so I could be wrong, but it makes sense, because being the fact that most people on Friday, you know, probably the most notable resolution is to lose weight. I'm going to lose weight, or I'm going to quit drinking, or I'm going to quit smoking, all these things right here. Well, then on Friday, that's hey, it's the weekend, you know. I'll just start Monday. I'll go back Monday, and that's what they say. It makes sense that would be the second Friday, because the first Friday they're all strong. And that week and a half later, go ahead and break that thing. But anyway, right here in 19, in verse 1, this is where David, like I say, he's been told that his son died just several verses later before this. And so in let's see, verse 1. Yeah, Joab was told the king is weeping and mourning for Absalom. And the whole army, the victory that day, was turned into mourning, because of that day the troops heard it said, the king is into mourning. Because of that day the troops heard the king is grieving his son. The men stole into the city that day, and as men steal who are ashamed when they flee from battle. The king covered his face and cried aloud, "Oh, my son Absalom! Oh, my Absalom, my son, my son!" Then Joab went into the house of the king and said, "Today you have humiliated all your men, who have just saved your life and their lives of your sons and their daughters, the lives of your wives and concubines. You love those who hate you and hate those who love you. You have made it clear today that the commanders of the men mean nothing to you. I see that you have been pleased if Absalom were alive today and all of us were dead. Now go get enough encouraging men and swear by the Lord that if you do not go out, I swear by the Lord today, if you do not go out, not a man will be left by you by nightfall. They will be worse for all of the calamities that have come upon you from your youth till now." So the king got up, took his seat in the gateway. When the men were told the king is sitting in the gateway, they all came before him. Now this is what you call the phrase bittersweet, okay? Because yes, David lost a son, but the people of Judea there are they're praising. I mean, we won a fight. We won the battle. You're still our king. And they're praising this, and David's taking that away from him because he's mourning the death of the enemy that tried taking his throne. So it's bittersweet for David, because David, the bitter part is his son's dead, and the sweet part is that he's still king. But yet the soldiers and everybody that want to celebrate are now having to mourn because their king is mourning. And David's trying, and Joab, that took a lot of nerve for Joab. You know why? Because Joab was the one that killed his son, or part of the group that killed his son. And now he's telling David, man up. And this is sometimes what we need to do in people's situations. You know, is when people, if they've lost their job, or if they lost their house, or lost their car, or lost their wife, or whatever they lost in their life, and you see them mourning over it, just sobbing like, oh man, my life's not worth living. Have you seen people in these situations where they just, and you're like, dude, you've got a lot of life to live. You've got a lot of life to live. And like myself, I've been through 2 divorces. And the thing was I didn't divorce them, they divorced me. And that's the sad thing about it, is when you cannot make somebody love you. You want to love this person, you committed to this person by saying till death do us part, and now they're trying to divorce you because you didn't make them happy, and yet you tried everything you thought was, that you were supposed to do. And I did. I tried everything I thought I was supposed to do in my marriage to keep them going. I wanted to go to counseling. I did go to counseling. Guess who didn't go? They did. Because I was trying to make things work. And the thing about it is, and that's the reason God says in the Bible that when somebody divorces you, you're not the adulterer. Because you have no choice. It's like God cannot make you love him. You have free will where you can say, God, I love you, and I want to do everything I can for you. Or you can say, God, I love my life. I love myself, and I want to do everything that I want to do. I know you have this thing that you want me to follow you and follow your rules, but Sean's got his own set of rules that he wants to live by. And that's the choice. That's what God gave us, free will. And that's the reason when people say, well, if God was real, then why does he let all these bad things happen to people? Like this deal over in New Orleans where the guy drove his pickup truck through this crowd of people. Because God gave him free will. You can be the devil if you want to. You can be the devil and worship these false religions that don't worship God and think you're doing right by killing people for your God. But if you worship my God, y'all's God, we're talking about somebody that loves people. And that's a choice he gives you. You can love somebody with all your heart, or you can hate them with everything you have just because they don't believe the same thing you believe. And that's what right here, it got a little far off on it, but that's what David is trying to do. He's lost in emotion. And Joab tells him this. Now, it says here in verse, the bottom of 8, it says, meanwhile, the Israelites had fled to their home throughout the tribes of Israel. The people were arguing with each other, saying, the king delivered us from the hand of our enemies. He is the one who rescued us from the hand of the Philistines, but now he has fled with the country because of Absalom. And Absalom, who he anointed to rule over us, has died in battle. So, do we say nothing about bringing the king back? King David sent the message to Zadokah and Abiathar, the priest, asked the elders of Judah, why should you be the last to bring the king back to this palace, since what was being said throughout Israel has reached the king at these quarters? Who are you, my brothers, my own flesh and blood? So why should you be the last to bring the king back? And say, Amasa, are you not my flesh and blood? My God, deal with me, but ever so severely, if now you are not commander of the army in the place of Joab. Okay, now what this is saying is the Israelites, this whole country was divided. Because they were divided because they wanted a new king. That Absalom stood out there and betrayed his dad by soliciting himself and telling everybody, I am going to be the new king. I am going to make things different. Because no one man is going to be able to please everybody. I mean, you can do everything you can to please somebody, and it's just like cooking. You can cook. Like my daughter, all the times growing up, I'd cook and I'd try to season my food. And my daughter, I said, you don't know how offensive it is that every time you get a bowl or a plate of something, you grab that salt shaker and you do this right here before you even tasted it. Have you ever seen people do that? Yeah. It's not salt. How do you know you ain't tasted it? At least taste it first. To me, it's a slap in the face when they just start putting salt on it. Pepper, different thing. Pepper adds heat to it. But anyway, and then, but now David is sitting here and he's telling these people they betrayed him and their king is dead. Absalom's dead. And they were like, oh, Team Absalom, now they're dead. It's kind of like having an election here in the United States, where you have these two presidential candidates running, and then one wins and the other one loses. Well, that one's still our president. No matter if you say, well, he's not my president. Yes, he is, okay? You might not like it, but he is. Now, but this is different because you tried to overthrow him. You said you was not good enough for us, so we were going to kill you. And now you're still alive, and we got to say, you know, it's kind of like you thought something was going to go away and it didn't, and now it's right there in your face. And you got to say, well, you know, we still have to have a king, you know? And David's still alive. But David did still, he saved us from the Philistines, because the Philistines were going to kill him, right? They would take him away. They would conquer over Israel until King David came and fought them all off and killed them off. Because after they killed Saul, they was going to take over Israel. That's when David stepped in and defended the country. And it's kept them off all this time. And now they're having like, And David could be a true king. He could walk in there and just, bam, kick them cabinet doors open and say, I'm king, this is my palace. But he's not doing that. He's not forcing himself on them. He's asking, well, am I your king? Do you still want me to be your king? And they know that if they don't take David as a king, guess what's going to happen? Somebody's going to come in and take them because they don't have a king, so somebody's going to rule over them pretty soon. And they know David's a mighty warrior, so they're like, so they get David back. And I'm gonna stop off on that. And then I just want to read over here on this right here. Because this one right here is to me, these two men that we read about in chapter 16. Over here in verse 16, it says, Shimei, son of Gera, the Benjamite from Barum, hurried down with the men of Judah to meet the King David. With him were thousands of Benjamites along with Ziba, the steward of Saul's house, and the 15 sons and 20 servants. They rushed to Jordan where the king was. They crossed over the ford to take the king's household over to do whatever they wished, or he wished. When Simeon, son of Gera, crossed the Jordan, he fell prostrate before the king and said to him, My Lord, or may my Lord not hold me guilty. Do not remember how the servant did wrong when you that day the Lord King left Jerusalem. Now, Simeon here, if y'all remember, if you read back to chapter 16, Simeon was the one that was up on the hill as David was leaving Israel, and he was over there kicking dirt and cursing him and throwing rocks at him and saying, talking trash about David. I don't know why, but he was. But now he's coming to David, laying down in front of him, asking, My Lord, please don't find me guilty. And it could be two ways of humbling yourself. And that's what I love, the examples about King David in this Bible. When you read 1 and 2 Samuel, you read the man of God's own heart. Why was David called the man of God's own heart? Because at this time right now, David has the power to put this guy that was cussing him and throwing rocks at him. He has the power to either kill him or forgive him. I don't know about y'all, but when people throw rocks and stuff at me, it stings. And I'm not just talking about rocks, I'm talking about words. When somebody throws words at you, they hurt. They hurt really bad. And but right here, David says, 21, that Abishai, son of Zerah, said, Shouldn't Shimei be put to death for this? He cursed the Lord's anointed. David replied, What do you and I have in common? You're sons of Zerah. This day you have become my adversary. Should anyone be put to death in Israel today, but I do not know that today I am king over Israel? So the king of Jessenius, you shall not die. And the king promised him the oath. Forgiveness. How many people in our life do we have that we still have grudges against, that we have not forgiven? Truthfully not forgiven. There's people that hold grudges forever and ever and ever. Now, and that bring that up, that's so funny. Because remember I told y'all several years back when they had the letter to the editor of the paper, and I was talking about where people were, my aunts, my great aunt, my aunt, they lived across the street from each other, and they would write letters to the editor of the paper, right? Big old talking trash about each other. Hey, sir. They always put that letter in there, and then with the letter to the editor, after several months, maybe years of this stuff, they said, we're not doing this anymore. So then my aunts lived across the street from each other. They got a big old 4 by 8 foot plywood sign out there and started writing words back and forth to each other. This is before social media, and so they would do this. Well then, okay, I was talking about that after Russell's funeral. Me and Spencer was over at Russell's house talking, and I told him about me preaching on that, and his wife started laughing. I said, "Why do you say that?" And she said, "Because Spencer had a woman over there in El Dorado that was turning him in about his chickens and stuff. That he wasn't supposed to have chickens in city limits or something like that." Well, Spencer went and got a 4 by 8 foot piece of plywood, put it out in his front yard, and sprayed it, "Mind your own business," and pointed it towards their woman. So this is the son of my aunt that was over there doing this, you know. So how they say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. But anyway, that was just a point where people could keep vengeance going on. Now, the one I really want to touch base on right here is David. Because you ever heard the expression eating crow? Yeah. Yeah, well, David fixed to have him a big old humble pie of crow. Right here in 24. Does anybody remember how to say this guy's name? It's, I'm trying to remember now if I can say it. Mephibosheth. I've been saying it all this time. Mephibosheth. Yeah, Mephibosheth. There we go. Spit it out. Mephibosheth, son of Saul's grandson, also went down to meet the king. He had not taken care of his feet or trimmed his mustache or washed his clothes from the day the king left until the day he returned safely. When he came from Jerusalem to meet the king and asked the king, "Why didn't you go with me, Mephibosheth?" He said, "My lord, since I was your servant and lame, I will have my donkey saddled and will ride on it, and I can go with you, the king. But Zebiah, my servant, betrayed me, and he has slandered your servant to the Lord, the Lord King, the king. My God, my Lord the king, is like an angel of God. So do whatever pleases you." Now, this is also back in 16. I don't want you to go to it. But David, when he was leaving Israel to avoid fighting Absalom there, in chapter 16, verse 1, it says, "When David had gone a short distance beyond the summit, there was Zebiah, the steward of Mephibosheth." Man, that guy's name's hard to say. People should be. Okay. Waiting to meet him, as a string of donkeys saddled and loaded with 200 loads and all other stuff he gave him. And this is where Ziba told King David, he said, "Where's Mr. Phoebe? Where's he at? The crippled kid." And he's like, "Dude, he went to David, or he's waiting in Jerusalem because now you and Absalom are fighting. He's going to hope both of y'all kill each other, and he's going to be the rightful heir because he's Saul's grandson. So he's going to let y'all battle it out, and he's going to become new king. And David's like, really? He would do that to me? So David tells Ziba that all of this Mephibosheth's stuff is now Ziba's. He gave it all to him just because he said that. Never checked on it, never double checked, just took one side of the story. And that's what I try to tell you. Don't ever listen to one side of the story, because sometimes there's another side. Like Dr. Phil says, no matter how small or flat you get a pancake, there's always another side. And this is where Mephibosheth is telling David, dude, I was going to come with you. I was going to ride out of Israel. And Ziba stole my donkey. He stole my donkey, all my donkeys. He stole all of them. And then and when he comes to you and tells you, I'm trying to betray you, you gave all my stuff away. You gave everything that I had to him. Because he said I was going to betray you. And I'm crippled. I can't walk. He took my donkey. How am I going to get to you? I can't walk. And David's like, okay, I kind of might be a little harsh on that one. And this is where really the growth really gets strong. Is see, yeah, all my grandfather's descendants deserve nothing but death from my lord the king. But you gave your servant a place among you to eat at your table. So what right do I have to make any more appeals to the king? The king said to him, nay, so more, I order you and Ziba to divide the fields. Mephibosheth said to the king, let him take everything, now that my lord the king has arrived home safely. How humble is that? How humble is it? A crippled guy that you gave him all of Saul's stuff, all his land, all his donkeys, all his houses and everything else, and then you took it all away from him because somebody come and lied to you. Wouldn't you feel betrayed if somebody just went to somebody that you loved? He loved Jonathan, and Mephibosheth loved him. And he was loyal to David. And Mephibosheth didn't do nothing wrong. But David said it wronged him, gave all his stuff away because of a lie, and now he's like, okay, I'll give it half of it back to you. And he's like, I don't want it. Give it all to him. That's all, that's material stuff. I have you, my king. That's all I need. Isn't that what God wants us to do? He gives us all this stuff. And we take it for granted. Because when something gets taken away from us, like, man, what did I do, God? I thought I was walking right beside you. And you just gave all my stuff away. You took my job, my house, my wife, all that stuff. You took it away from me. We turn around and bite the hand that feeds us, don't we? And that's what David's sitting here now. David's having to eat it. And I hate to be in that situation. I've been in that situation for it. Anybody that hasn't been in that situation apparently don't remember me. Because I've been there before where I said something to somebody and automatically I was wrong. You know? Have you ever said that to somebody, like, they missed an important date or something, ain't been at church or something? You're like, hey man, we've been missing you at church. Trying to put that guilt trip on them. Oh man, I had a family member die. Ooh, kind of stung, didn't it? I guess I shouldn't have said that. See, there's things that we say sometimes trying to get at people that we shouldn't say. And that's what David did right here. He acted harshly, and now Mephibosheth has came back and said, man, I don't want that stuff. I don't want none of it. I want you. And shouldn't that be the relationship we have with God? God, I don't need a new house. God, I don't need a new car. I'm thankful for the one that runs out there. I'm thinking I'm not walking. God could have me on a bicycle. Lord knows I might need to be on one. I mean, it's like one of our members here, she has a car, but she loves to walk, and she'll walk all over town, but she won't be walking today, but I guarantee But that's the thing, is that's what God gives us, and we're not appreciative of it. He gives us these big families and children and grandkids and loving friends and everything else, and then somebody gets mad at us and we think we have nothing. Oh, nobody loves me. Nobody loves me. No, we see how selfish we are. God wants us to be caring and loving and just thankful for all that he does. And that's what David did right here. David was given a kingdom, a country to rule. And yet he still hurt a crippled guy. A crippled guy that can't defend himself. And the crippled guy says, you know what? All I need is you. Even though you betrayed me, gave all my stuff away, you're still my king. You're still my king and I still love you. But that's the good thing about God, is God is not human. So he don't make stupid mistakes like David did. He don't make no mistakes at all. So if you think you got something wrong in your life, then it's between you and the devil, because God don't make mistakes. Would bow your heads. I always like to take this time to ask if anybody wants to come down and invite God into their lives, or join the church, or whatever it is that